Sony, which has actually been fairly early to the Chinese market compared to its competitors, and which is selling PlayStation 5 briskly within the borders of its country, intends on increasing its investment into Chinese games, according to Reuters. 7 China Hero Project games from the first 2 investment cycles in 2017 and 2019 have made it to market of 17 identified games, and games tagged in this third round will each receive $1 million yuan, or about $150,000 each, a small investment in Western games, but a much larger one in China's developing market. And what makes this new round of China Hero Project investment significant is that from the second wave, 2 games were so impressive to Sony that they are publishing those titles themselves, and a second-party capacity, a sign of confidence. The 2 games in question are Lost Soul Aside, which was first revealed 6 years ago and was an early China Hero Project game, as well as a game called Convaleria, which was first revealed 3 years ago. Lost Soul Aside is being developed by a team called Utilizero, which is made up of 40 individuals. It's an action RPG that has also garnered investment from the likes of Epic. And while no release date or even target hardware has been revealed, its long dev cycle continues. It's PlayStation 5 bound sooner rather than later, and there's a new trailer out for it. As for Convaleria, this third-person shooter is by a team called Long Force with 2 O's. It's a PvP and PvE game, quote, that places teamwork and tactics at the heart of its gameplay, end quote. It's likely that this game, though also undated and without target hardware, is one of the vaunted dozen or so games as a service slated for PlayStation 5 in the coming few years.
Well, let me tell you, Lost Soul aside, this game looks really good. It looks really, really promising. Beautiful graphics, really awesome, stylized action combat. Kind of reminded me of Devil May Cry in some ways. The third-person shooter game looks less interesting to me, but it doesn't look bad by any means. And this is cool, I think. I say that with some cautiousness, just because obviously we have a long tradition on this show about skepticism from Chinese companies, particularly Tencent being the biggest one. But I don't initially off the bat see any issues with investment in individual teams in China. This is clearly a very strong market with a lot of interesting developing teams as well, a lot of talent there. And it would be wise, I think, to look into that for different partnership opportunities. I think that there could be concerns down the road, depending on the popularity of these games, where we see specifically the film industry just bend over regularly to China for different things. And we wouldn't want that situation happening here. So these games look cool. I'm okay with what's happening right now, but I think this is something we definitely need to keep an eye on as could be a potential problem.
I think, in my opinion, we have to kind of separate 2 things. I told you that we had to edit Super Perils of Baking on PS4 and PS5 to remove reference to Taiwan and China in it. Why would those things be referenced? It was just in a cookbook bestiary entry for our game. And we had to remove it, which we didn't have to do on Microsoft Xbox. We didn't have to do it on Steam's PC client. We didn't have to do it even on Nintendo. And so those things are already happening, and I can kind of see, remember, we talked about this preemptive Arc System Works edit to Guilty Gear Strive, where they removed Taiwan from the game's lore and did all these kinds of things, which definitely speaks to a growing geopolitical and social influence over video games and the manufacture of game machines, and certainly the manufacture and creation of software. But I feel like you have to separate that and all the implications of hardware manufacture at Foxconn, and just how, that fucking suicide nets and all the crazy shit that's going on over there. If people haven't seen it, it's true. Like Foxconn, which is the major Chinese purveyor of technologies amongst these other companies, there's pictures of literal like suicide nets so people can't kill themselves by jumping off of buildings and stuff. That's definitely something that people should think about, and why I've long said that it would be awesome to get domestically or fair made PlayStation 5s manufactured, even if they cost more. China is a country, an ancient country of over 1 billion people with a deep heritage and a deep history, one of the deepest, most complex histories dating back time immemorial, basically. And we need more of them in the creative arts because there's lots to do there. It's strange to me that we haven't gotten more Chinese games. And I actually think I want to applaud Sony for going there, because I don't like the idea of punishing the game devs for the statism of where they're from that they probably don't agree with and certainly could not say that they disagree with publicly. And I'm interested to see what they come up with.
There's been like a lot of amazing comedians that made jokes about how like they'll like add in like the gay kissing scene or whatever. They'll keep that and they'll make it a big thing for Pride Month in the US. And it's like, oh, we already had the clip ready because that's what we cut out of the Chinese version, right? Like, so there's definitely concerns about that for sure. Or like Star Wars, where they took Finn out, like they made Finn real small on the movie poster in China and stuff like that. It's like definitely not okay to have that either. So like I said, it's a monitoring situation that, yes, we want this to happen, but do it the right way. Don't fall prey to the influence of censorship.
Yeah, I just think I'm interested in what creations can come out of there and why would they necessarily be tethered to their political opinions or how they feel and whatever. I just don't think we see enough out of them. And though there are many places around the world that don't share our outlook on things. I mean, I think about games coming from places like Eastern Europe, which are deeply homophobic, traditionalist, Catholic, and Orthodox places. I'm not saying they don't have the right to their cultures, but it's just an example. Like a game coming from CD Projekt, Poland is a much more socially conservative place. So people freak out that you can't get an abortion at 20 months or 20 weeks rather in Poland. Not that I don't care one way or the other. What I'm saying is we don't care. Right. So at some point, I think that it is that. And it was what I was saying too with that game Atomic Heart, made by Russians. How far is that's a Russian team straight up. So how far are you going to take it?
Invest where there's talent. I think that makes tons of sense. I mean, it's not just the aspect of finding a game for cheap. Obviously, that's something that they're interested in, but it's also about, I mean, the possibility of potential future partners. They've gotten in with MiHoYo, the creators of Genshin Impact, and that is probably extremely valuable now going forward with what other stuff they want to create. So it seems like a low risk situation, not only to invest in places, but potentially invest in specific games, but also for the future stuff that those studios could create.
Yeah, right on.